The first contact protocol was clear: no physical contact, maintain proper distance, and above all, stay professional. But nobody had prepared humanity for the bright folks' traditional greeting. Tom Anderson stood at attention in the pristine white corridor of the International Space Station, his crisp blue uniform perfectly pressed for humanity's first official meeting with the alien delegation. As Earth's lead diplomat for extraterrestrial affairs, he had spent months preparing for this moment. The bright folk had seemed friendly enough in their initial communications, but their insistence on meeting in person had made everyone nervous. "They're approaching the airlock now, sir," reported Lisa Miller, his assistant, checking the tablet in her hands. Her usually steady voice had a slight tremor of excitement. The airlock cycled with a soft hiss. Tom straightened his back even more, if that was possible. The door slid open, revealing 3 tall, elegant figures. The bright folk were exactly as their video messages had shown, humanoid, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, and long, flowing hair in various pastel colors that floated around their heads like ethereal halos. The lead alien, who had introduced herself as Ambassador Ray in previous communications, stepped forward. She was nearly 7 feet tall, with hair the color of a summer sunrise and eyes that literally sparkled like diamonds. Tom had been briefed that the bright folk delegation would consist entirely of females, as their species had a matriarchal society. "Greetings, Ambassador Anderson," Ray said in perfect English, her voice musical and light. "We are honored to meet you in person at last." Tom began to extend his hand for a formal handshake, but before he could complete the gesture, Ambassador Ray did something that would forever change human-alien relations. She sneezed. But it wasn't any ordinary sneeze. When bright folk sneezed, their entire body lit up like a Christmas tree, sending out waves of rainbow-colored light that danced across the walls. And apparently, in their culture, it was considered the height of rudeness not to sneeze back. Ray and her companion stood there, expectantly waiting for Tom to return their traditional greeting. Lisa tried desperately to stifle her giggle as Tom stood frozen, his hand still half extended, completely baffled by the protocol breach that had just occurred. Tom stammered, looking helplessly at Lisa, who was now covering her mouth with both hands, her shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" Ray asked, genuine concern in her sparkling eyes. "Have we committed a cultural faux pas? In our society, the sharing of light through the greeting sneeze is the highest form of respect we can show to new friends." Tom's diplomatic training kicked in, and he managed to keep a straight face as he replied, "Not at all, Ambassador. It's just that humans, well, we can't exactly control our sneezes. Or make them light up." There was a moment of stunned silence before Ray's eyes widened in understanding. Then, to everyone's surprise, she burst out laughing, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Oh my!" she exclaimed, her whole body twinkling with mirth. "No wonder you looked so confused. Please forgive us. Our cultural research team will be absolutely mortified when they learn of this oversight." The tension in the corridor broke as everyone, humans and bright folk alike, joined in the laughter. And just like that, with a sneeze and a laugh, the first official meeting between humanity and the bright folk became a story that would be told for generations to come. Tom would later write in his report that sometimes the best diplomatic breakthroughs come not from careful planning, but from embracing the unexpected moments that remind us that no matter how different we might appear, the ability to laugh at ourselves unites all sentient beings. News of the luminous sneezing greeting spread through the space station faster than a quantum transmission. By the time Tom Anderson and the bright folk delegation reached the conference room, every human crew member they passed was trying their best not to burst into fits of giggles. "I must admit," Ambassador Ray said as they settled into their seats, her silvery skin still occasionally flickering with amusement, "this misunderstanding has made our first meeting far more memorable than any formal ceremony could have." Tom nodded, finally allowing himself to relax a bit. "I agree completely. Though I have to ask, how exactly did your species develop such an unique greeting?" The three bright folk exchanged glances, their pastel hair swirling in synchronized patterns that Tom was beginning to suspect indicated some form of nonverbal communication. Well, Ray began, her diamond eyes twinkling. It started as a practical matter. You see, our ancestors lived in deep underground caves to escape the harsh radiation of our binary suns. In those dark spaces, the ability to produce light became crucial for survival. The greeting sneeze evolved as a way to identify friend from foe in the darkness. Lisa, who had been quietly taking notes on her tablet, looked up with fascination. That's actually quite brilliant from an evolutionary standpoint. But why a sneeze specifically? The youngest-looking bright folk, who had introduced herself as Beacon, leaned forward eagerly. Oh, that's the funny part. Our historians believe it's because the mineral dust in the caves would make everyone sneeze anyway, so our bodies adapted to turn it into something useful. We're actually studying human sneezes with great interest. The way you expel air so forcefully without any luminous display is quite extraordinary. Tom tried to imagine a scientific paper dedicated to analyzing human sneezes and had to bite his cheek to maintain his diplomatic composure. I'm sure our medical researchers would be fascinated to collaborate on such a study, he managed to say with admirable seriousness. The third bright folk, introduced as Glow, had been quietly observing the humans' reactions. We have noticed, she said thoughtfully, that humans seem to find great joy in what we consider ordinary biological functions. Your entertainment broadcasts frequently feature what you call physical comedy. Perhaps we could use this shared appreciation for the humorous aspects of our differences to build stronger bonds between our peoples? Tom's diplomatic mind immediately saw the potential. That's actually a brilliant suggestion. Cultural exchange through humor could be a powerful tool for fostering understanding between our species. Oh yes! Beacon exclaimed, literally lighting up with enthusiasm. We could start with a joint performance art piece. Humans trying to replicate our greeting sneeze with artificial lights, while we attempt to sneeze in your style, completely dark. The mental image was too much for Lisa, who finally lost her battle with professionalism and burst out laughing. Her laughter proved contagious, and soon the conference room was filled with the mixed sounds of human chuckles and the melodic, chime-like laughter of the bright folk. As the laughter subsided, Tom realized something remarkable had happened. In less than an hour, a potential diplomatic nightmare had transformed into what might be the galaxy's first interspecies comedy show. The formal agenda he'd spent months preparing lay forgotten on his tablet, replaced by increasingly ridiculous suggestions for cultural exchange programs. You know, Ray said, wiping tears of mirth from her sparkling eyes, which, Tom noticed, glowed like tiny supernovas when she cried. When our council selected us for this mission, they were concerned that humans might not take us seriously because our delegation consisted entirely of females. They worried your species might see our biological illumination abilities as frivolous or primitive. Tom smiled warmly. I think we've proven today that sometimes the best way to take something seriously is to be willing to laugh at it together first. Just then, a human crew member walking past the conference room window sneezed naturally, causing all three bright folk to instinctively light up in response. The resulting cascade of laughter and light could probably be seen from Earth. The next few days aboard the International Space Station brought a series of entertaining cultural revelations. Tom Anderson found himself dealing with situations his diplomatic training had definitely not covered, starting with breakfast in the station's common area. Ambassador Ray, he began, watching in fascination as the bright folk leader delicately manipulated her spoon with fingers that pulsed with soft light. I've been meaning to ask, does your species always glow during meals? Ray looked up from her bowl of space-approved cereal, her hair shifting from its usual sunrise pink to a slightly embarrassed lavender. Oh, I apologize if it's distracting. You see, our bodies automatically produce light when we're processing nutrients. It's rather like your human expression of having a healthy glow, except in our case, it's literal. Lisa, who had appointed herself unofficial chronicler of human bright folk interactions, was recording everything with poorly concealed delight. So that's why the lights in your quarters kept flickering last night. We thought there might be an electrical problem. Beacon, who had been experimenting with human-style toast, looked mortified. That was actually because of the snack boxes we brought from home. Our midnight snacks tend to be rather energetic. Her skin flickered in what the humans were learning to recognize as their version of a blush. Speaking of energy, Glow interjected, clearly trying to change the subject. We've noticed something peculiar about human sleeping habits. Why do you insist on darkness for rest? Our species finds it most refreshing to recharge in bright light. Tom choked slightly on his coffee. Are you telling me that your species photosynthesizes? In a manner of speaking, Ray explained, her hair swirling with academic enthusiasm. Though it's more complex than your plant life. We absorb various forms of radiation and convert them into biological energy. That's why we were so excited to visit your space station. The direct exposure to your sun's rays is quite invigorating. Just then, the station's morning shift crew began filtering into the common area. The humans had mostly adjusted to their alien visitors, but the sight of 3 glowing beings eating breakfast still caused a few double takes. One crew member, a maintenance technician named Bob, walked in yawning, and triggered another cultural revelation. The 3 bright folk immediately lit up like emergency beacons, their hair standing on end in dramatic swirls. What is that magnificent display of air expulsion? Beacon demanded excitedly. It's like a sneeze, but slower and more graceful. Tom and Lisa exchanged glances. That's just a yawn, Lisa explained, trying not to laugh at Bob's confused expression. Humans do it when we're tired or need more oxygen. Fascinating, Ray exclaimed, attempting to mimic the action. The result was something between a sneeze and a singing note, accompanied by a light show that made the morning coffee run feel more like a disco. Does it serve a social function like our greeting sneeze? Not exactly, Tom said, watching in amusement as other crew members began yawning, partly from genuine tiredness and partly to entertain their enthusiastic visitors. Though yawns can be contagious among humans. This led to an impromptu yawning demonstration, with humans and bright folk attempting to copy each other's expressions. The resulting chaos of light shows, yawns, and sneezes had the entire morning shift running behind schedule, but no one seemed to mind. You know, Bob said thoughtfully, as he watched Beacon attempt to yawn for the 15th time, producing what looked like a miniature aurora borealis around her head. I never thought first contact would involve teaching aliens how to yawn. Indeed, Ray agreed, her hair cycling through amused colors. Our cultural exchange officers prepared extensive presentations about art, music, and philosophy. Yet here we are, learning more about each other through breakfast and involuntary bodily functions than we probably would through any formal diplomatic channel. Tom smiled, making a mental note to completely rewrite the first contact protocol manual when he got back to Earth. Clearly, some additions were needed about the diplomatic importance of sneezing, yawning, and possibly other bodily functions he hadn't even considered yet. The peaceful breakfast scene was interrupted by the station's communication system. Ambassador Anderson, the captain's voice crackled through the speakers. We've just received word that the Bright Folk High Council wishes to arrange a video conference. Apparently, news of our unique cultural exchange has reached their home world. The video conference room aboard the International Space Station had never felt so crowded. Tom Anderson stood nervously adjusting his uniform while Lisa frantically tried to adjust the lighting to accommodate both human visibility and the bright folks' natural glow. The 3 alien ambassadors stood nearby, their usually peaceful illumination flickering with what Tom had learned to recognize as anxiety. The High Council is very traditional, Ray explained, her sunrise-colored hair moving in tight, worried spirals. They expected formal diplomatic proceedings, not viral videos of us teaching humans about greeting sneezes. Viral videos? Tom's head snapped up. What viral videos? Lisa cleared her throat awkwardly. Well, sir, it seems someone from the morning crew shared some footage of our breakfast interactions on social media. It's become quite popular. The hashtag #AlienSneezeChallenge is trending globally. Before Tom could process this information, the large screen flickered to life. 5 elderly bright folk appeared, their silver skin bearing an almost metallic sheen that spoke of great age, and their hair flowing in complex patterns that seemed to indicate various degrees of disapproval. Ambassador Ray, the central figure spoke, her voice carrying the weight of authority. We have observed the transmissions from Earth's information networks. It appears our first contact protocols have been somewhat compromised. Tom stepped forward, ready to take responsibility, but Ray raised a hand to stop him. To everyone's surprise, she sneezed, not the usual greeting sneeze, but a complex pattern of light that rippled through multiple colors in what appeared to be a formal display. Honored Council, she said, her voice firm despite her nervously twirling hair. I wish to submit that our mission has been more successful than we could have hoped. Yes, we deviated from traditional protocols. Yes, humans are now attempting to recreate our greeting sneeze with artificial lights and sharing it on their networks. But isn't this exactly what we hoped for? Cultural exchange? Understanding? Connection? Beacon, showing unexpected courage, stepped forward. May I share something with the Council? At their stern nod, she produced a small device that projected a hologram into the center of the room. It showed scenes from Earth, children wearing light-up sneakers and pretending to be bright folk, artists creating light installations inspired by their greeting, and even a group of astronomers using high-powered telescopes to send light-pattern messages into space. Humans aren't mocking us, Beacon explained. They're embracing us. They're trying to understand us by quite literally putting themselves in our light. Glow added her voice to the defense. And they've shared their own biological functions with us in return. Did you know humans have this fascinating behavior called yawning? It's like a greeting sneeze in reverse, and it's contagious. We've learned more about human physiology and culture through these informal interactions than months of formal study could have provided. The council members' hair patterns shifted slightly, indicating they were conferring among themselves. Finally, the central figure spoke again. Ambassador Ray, when we selected an all-female delegation, we trusted your unique abilities to handle this mission with grace and wisdom. We see now that your methods, while unconventional, have indeed produced remarkable results. The tension in the room began to ease, but the council wasn't finished. However, the elder continued, we do have one serious concern. These viral videos you mentioned, they're not actually infectious, are they? We wouldn't want to trigger an interstellar pandemic. There was a moment of stunned silence before Tom burst out laughing. He quickly tried to cover it with a cough, which made Ray instinctively light up in response, which triggered Beacon's nervous sneeze response, creating a chain reaction of light and laughter that even the stern council members couldn't help but observe with twitching hair patterns that suggested suppressed amusement. No, honored council, Lisa managed to explain, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes. A viral video just means it's very popular and spreads quickly through our networks. Like your greeting sneeze, it's contagious only in the best possible way. The council's hair patterns relaxed into more flowing movements. In that case, the elder announced, we believe it's time to proceed with the next phase of cultural exchange. Ambassador Ray, your team is hereby authorized to invite a human delegation to visit our home world. Though perhaps, she added, with what might have been a twinkle in her diamond-like eyes, we should prepare our people for the possibility of dark sneezes and contagious yawns first. Preparations for the first human delegation to the Bright Folk home world were unlike any diplomatic mission Tom Anderson had ever organized. Instead of the usual security briefings and protocol reviews, he found himself in the station's gym, practicing what the crew had dubbed synchronized sneezing with his team. Remember, Ray instructed, watching as the humans attempted to coordinate their pocket light devices. The timing must be perfect. Our welcome ceremony traditionally involves a cascading wave of greeting sneezes. We've modified it to accommodate your biological limitations, but the light patterns still need to flow smoothly. Lisa, who had been chosen as part of the Earth delegation, was coordinating with Beacon to program the special light-embedded suits they would wear on the Bright Folk world. I still can't believe we're choreographing a light show instead of memorizing formal speeches, she said, adjusting the intensity of her suit's glow. At least we convinced them not to hold the ceremony in the ancestral caves. Glow commented, her hair swirling with amusement. The echo of a human sneeze in those caverns would probably trigger a planetary greeting response. The humor of the situation was interrupted by Bob, the maintenance technician, who burst into the gym with exciting news. "Ambassador, you need to see this. The public response to our upcoming visit has gone completely wild." He pulled up a series of holographic displays showing news feeds from both Earth and the Bright Folk world. Humans everywhere were preparing for the historic visit by creating elaborate light displays. Cities were programming their buildings to perform synchronized light shows in honor of their alien visitors. Even more touching were the videos from the Bright Folk world, showing their people practicing how to greet humans in darkness, creating special shadow theaters, and designing areas of their cities with reduced illumination for human comfort. "It's remarkable," Ray said softly, her glow dimming to a gentle shimmer of emotion. "When we first discovered your world, some of our scientists worried that the differences between our species would be too great to overcome. They thought our biological light production would make humans see us as too alien, too different." Tom smiled, watching as the station crew continued their light show practice. "I think we've proved that sometimes the things that make us different are exactly what bring us together. Though I have to admit, I never thought I'd be leading a diplomatic mission based on sneezing." "About that," Lisa interjected, looking up from her tablet with a mischievous grin. "The Earth Entertainment Networks have a request. They want to broadcast the welcome ceremony live across both our worlds." Ray's hair immediately formed excited spirals. "Oh! We could coordinate it with the Great Illumination Festival. It's when all our cities synchronize their biological lights to create planet-wide patterns. Having humans participate would make it the most spectacular festival in our history." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. The human delegation practiced their light patterns until they could perform them in their sleep, and some actually did, according to their sleep monitoring devices. The Bright Folk ambassadors helped design special protective suits that would not only keep humans safe in their environment, but would also allow them to participate fully in the light-based cultural expressions. As the departure date approached, Tom found himself in the observation module with Ray, watching Earth rotate below them while discussing last-minute details. "There's something we haven't told you about the Great Illumination Festival," Ray said, her voice carrying a note of excitement she couldn't quite suppress. "When our entire population lights up in synchronization, it creates a very special effect. We call it the Joy Wave, a ripple of pure celebration that can actually be seen from space." Tom looked at her curiously. "Why do I feel like you're leading up to something?" Ray's hair formed patterns he'd never seen before, something between anticipation and mischief. "Well, we've been doing calculations. With the human light suits, the city displays, and our combined populations, the upcoming festival might create the first joy wave powerful enough to be visible from other star systems." "Are you saying," Tom asked slowly, "that our first joint celebration might accidentally announce our alliance to the entire galaxy?" "More or less," Ray admitted, her glow brightening with amusement. "Though perhaps accidentally isn't quite the right word. Let's just say the High Council is very interested in seeing who might notice and come to investigate the source of all that joy." The day of the Great Illumination Festival arrived with an atmosphere of excitement that transcended species barriers. The human delegation stood at the entrance of the Bright Folks' Grand Assembly, their special suits gleaming softly in the perpetual twilight of the alien world. Above them, the binary suns painted the sky in perpetual sunset colors, creating a perfect backdrop for the upcoming celebration. Tom Anderson had faced many challenging moments in his diplomatic career, but nothing quite compared to standing before billions of watching eyes, both human and bright folk, preparing to participate in what might be the galaxy's biggest light show. "Remember," Ray whispered, her hair flowing with encouraging patterns, "just like we practiced. And don't worry about making mistakes. The joy wave is about celebration, not perfection." Lisa checked the final calibrations on their suits one last time. "All systems are optimal. Though I still can't believe we modified deep space exploration suits to basically turn us into human light bulbs. The most sophisticated light bulbs in human history," Bob added with a grin, having earned his place in the delegation through his creative technical solutions for human bright folk integration. The ceremony began with a traditional bright folk greeting cascade. Starting from the highest point of the city, a wave of greeting sneezes rippled down through the gathered crowds, each person lighting up in sequence. The effect was like watching a mountain of stars come to life. When the wave reached the base of the Grand Assembly, it was humanity's turn. Tom took a deep breath and activated his suit's primary sequence. The other human delegates followed suit, their specially programmed light patterns creating an Earth-style aurora borealis that danced and swirled among the bright folks' natural illumination. The crowd's response was immediate and overwhelming. The bright folks' joy manifested as spontaneous bursts of light that transformed the twilight landscape into a sea of dancing colors. Human spectators watching from Earth sent their own light shows in response, with cities around the globe orchestrating their buildings and streets in synchronized patterns. But the real surprise came during the height of the celebration. As planned, the entire bright folk population began the synchronized illumination that would create the joy wave. What wasn't planned was how their human guests would affect it. The combination of bright folk biology and human technology created something entirely new. The joy wave didn't just ripple across the planet's surface, it spiraled upward, creating a double helix of light that wound its way into the upper atmosphere. Space stations and satellites from both worlds captured the phenomenon, broadcasting it across Earth and the bright folk world simultaneously. "This is incredible!" Beacon exclaimed, her own glow pulsing with excitement. "The interaction between your artificial lights and our biological illumination is creating patterns we've never seen before." Glow, who had been monitoring the scientific readings, added, "The energy output is far beyond our predictions. This signal isn't just visible to nearby star systems, it's going to be detectable across a significant portion of the galaxy." As if in response to her words, something new appeared in the sky. At first, everyone thought it was just another light effect, but soon it became clear that these new lights were moving with purpose. 3 distinct points of light, each a different color, descended through the atmosphere. "Are those?" Lisa began, her voice filled with wonder. "Other visitors," Ray confirmed, her hair forming patterns of amazement. "It seems our little light show has attracted some attention." The new arrivals, representatives of 3 different space-faring species, landed near the Grand Assembly. Each species had their own unique way of producing or manipulating light, and each had been drawn by the unprecedented display of joint celebration between humans and bright folk. As Tom prepared to greet these unexpected guests, he couldn't help but laugh. "You know," he said to Ray, "when I took this diplomatic assignment, I thought first contact would be all about formal protocols and careful negotiations. Instead, it turns out the secret to galactic diplomacy is just having a good sneeze and knowing how to laugh at yourself." Ray's hair formed the pattern that Tom had come to recognize as her equivalent of a wide smile. "Perhaps that's exactly why your species was perfect for first contact. You taught us that sometimes the best way to bridge the gap between worlds is to shine a light on our differences and learn to dance in the glow of understanding." As the new visitors approached, the humans and bright folk prepared to demonstrate their now famous greeting. After all, they had already proved that a sneeze, a laugh, and a willingness to embrace the unexpected could turn strangers into friends across the vast expanse of space. And somewhere, in the great cosmic dance of stars and planets, the light of their shared joy continued to spread, carrying a simple message to anyone who might be watching. In this vast universe, different doesn't mean distant, and the things that make us unique are the very things that bring us together.